There's no other way to put it. 2025 was the year of Donkey Kong. It was the culmination of a decade-long effort from Nintendo to put one of their most precious characters back on the map. After Tropical Freeze, Donkey Kong kinda became a side character for Mario's sports and Smash games, but all the while Nintendo's surveys continued to show him as one of their most recognizable and beloved characters. After unrealized pitches, a desperate search for a new developer, and a partnership with a previous mortal enemy, they finally did it. Before we properly move on to the new year, I want to take a look back and do one more victory lap for the year of Kong. It all started in January. The release of Donkey Kong Country Returns HD should have been a cause for celebration. Every Donkey Kong Country game would be available on one system. This was supposed to be the undisputed best version of the game. The Wii had forced waggle, the 3DS had performance issues and broken co-op, and the Nvidia Shield version is region locked to China with the authentication servers offline. Needless to say, the game was met with a little bit of the old-fashioned controversy. Can you believe there was a time when we were complaining about $60 games instead of $70 and $80? The price tag was difficult enough, but minor frame drops, graphical downgrades, and loading times that are longer than the Wii original made it feel like a minimal effort in exchange for maximum profits. Not really living up to that Nintendo seal of quality. Most important to my concerns, the broken co-op from the 3DS was perfectly implemented, the most faithful part of the game. Beautifully ironic. The game is still fine for the most part. Most people who haven't played the Wii version in a decade or never played in the first place aren't necessarily going to notice these issues, but Donkey Kong Country Returns for the 4th time deserves better. There's still time to patch it if you're watching. Forever Entertainment or Nintendo. Alright, so I wrote that whole bit on January 18th and we started editing it. Nintendo and Forever Entertainment seem to have addressed the co-op bug, a lot of the visuals and performance issues. They even threw Dixie Kong in there for kicks and giggles. We made a video on the co-op being fixed, and we'll revisit the game in a more all-encompassing manner in the near future. I'm so happy to be cramming this into this video. We didn't have much time to fixate on returns in the year because that very same day the game was released, Nintendo unveiled the long-rumored Switch 2. The trailer seemed to confirm all the information that had been leaked in the lead up to Nintendo's announcement. I didn't think much of it, as the video game box is only as interesting as the games that they put on it. While they didn't outright announce a game, they did show a new Mario Kart, and you know where I'm going with this. Considering most of the other surprises were spoiled ahead of time, it seemed like the Donkey Kong redesign took over the conversation. The DK subreddit exploded overnight with a lot of disgust. A whole generation of rare kids were triggered, thinking Donkey Kong was gonna look like his movie appearance. Forever. We saw Nintendo quietly update a bunch of drawings while we all speculated on whether our boy was gonna make it onto the other side or not. In retrospect, this seems a little silly to worry about, but I mean, they've messed this up before. In February and March, we speculated on this new DK design, along with the possibility of a new Donkey Kong game. They also dropped some Donkey Kong themed Air Max 1s in March. They made the most bizarre commercial in the world to advertise it. My brother Matthew picked up some to complement the sickest t-shirt ever made. He even wore it to Donkey World. When Nintendo announced their April 2nd Direct, all the gaming tastemakers assumed the same thing.
Nintendo, you go back to the tried and true, launch it with a 3D Mario game.
In my opinion, I think it's going to be the next big 3D Mario.
New 3D Mario. We're just due for it.
Now, my next absolute lock for this presentation, no doubt about it, it's going to be there, is the next mainline 3D Mario game.
But we all know what happened next. A new ambitious 3D Donkey Kong game would be the premier single-player experience for the Nintendo Switch 2. After 11 years, we finally had a new Donkey Kong game to look forward to. Just as the question of where DK would go next was answered, a banana bunch of new mysteries presented themselves. Who is this rock? Where are the Kongs? Will this game have Crocs? With only 3 months in between the game's announcement and release, the most intense hype and speculation cycle I've ever experienced commenced. Almost immediately after the Direct, Nintendo of Korea pulled what we in the business call an oopsie poopsie. Their version of the Bonanza website launched with Pauline on DK's back rather than Oddrock. We all saw purple rocks in her hair bracelet and hair tie, quickly making the connection. Around that same time, Cranky was featured in a trailer, and we saw some interesting clues pointing to a certain crocodilian king. Everything felt up in the air though. People were saying the Crocs were gone and the new stuff was better anyway. Others were saying that Diddy was being kept under wraps because of a certain rapper. But 15 days after our Diddy Kong video, he was back with some small tweaks. Some might even say his design was touched up. There was this hoopla about the small, layer of skin inserted between his eyes. I don't have a strong opinion on it one way or the other, but I will say I'm not a huge fan of the DD pin. It's preferable to the giant "We Own You" Nintendo stamp that was there before, but it feels a little unnecessary. Overall, I'm digging the design though. They chunked him up a little bit, he's looking good. Days later, we would get to see a little more of the Kongs at the Licensing Expo in Las Vegas. Mario and Zelda were there as you would imagine, but brand spanking new DK renders were on display as well. While we got a peek at peak design, this was also yet another signal that the brand was on an upswing. 2 days after the expo, Universal Studios' Epic Universe in Orlando opened to the public. At last, Donkey World made its way outside of Japan. Donkey World. The DKC part of the park would prove to be tremendously popular, with Minecart Madness sporting some of the latest immersion technology for roller coasters. Weeks after that theme park opening, we got our hands on the Switch 2. Although the main course of Donkey Kong Bonanza would take an extra month to release, Mario Kart was there to serve as an appetizer for DK fans. The content within this game was minimal but deliberate. Lots of callbacks to the arcade glory days were before us. The music for DK Spaceport, it's nuts. With only one costume and a lack of supporting Kongs, it seems like they're keeping things open for a possible banana-flavored DLC pack down the road. Just like we predicted in the Diddy Kong video, a Nintendo Direct hit about 2 weeks after Mario Kart. I thought they were going to talk about other games too, but this was a 100% refined potassium Donkey Direct. We were properly introduced to Pauline, some of the Bonanza forms, and the missing Kongs. The game was looking like a fun time, and it was obvious Nintendo was putting a lot of time and effort into this project. There was only one concern in the minds of DK fans though. Where's the Crocs? We were left to speculate. What is at the planet's core? Is it going to be K. Rool? And they're just gonna like save it for us like that for that long? It's possible. Maybe I should have stopped there. I'm just kidding. That last month of looking into every nook and cranny for Croc hints was one of the most fun experiences I've ever had on the internet. I met the rest of the Donkey Pals in the process, and we still goof around about games to this day. There's some stuff we were spot on about, and a multitude of other things we didn't understand at all, but it was always more about the journey than the destination. We learned about different breeds of monkey, Chinese legend, Hollow Earth literature, and things I otherwise never would have really thought about. As we moved into July, we got confirmation of something Kyle Russell from DK Vine had been reporting on for the better part of a decade. A new Donkey Kong game was being developed at Tokyo EPD, helmed by the members of the Odyssey team. He also called the fact that this would be a newly formed team made up of Donkey Kong Country fans. There was a lot of crossover between these projects, but it's clear from looking at the credits of Bonanza that there's a separate group of EPD Tokyo employees working on something else. A bunch of developer interviews and last-minute speculation were underway when 4 days before the game's release, Nintendo Everything discovered a copyright filing for an untitled Donkey Kong project, motion picture. This was old news in one sense. Whispers of a Donkey Kong movie go back as far as 2021, with Giant Freakin' Robot reporting... That's the name of the website. I don't know what to tell you, man. Anyway, they reported on a standalone Donkey Kong movie. When the Mario movie released, Seth Rogen pretty openly discussed the possibility, though he didn't outright confirm anything. Movie studios are generally way more open than game studios are when they start working on something, so there's been a million cases of a movie being announced only to be quietly shelved, but this copyright filing shows some forward momentum on the project. I imagine Nintendo wants box office revenue to be an annual affair, and I'd wager the DK movie will hit in 2028. Then, the game finally released. We could all experience DK's grand return to 3 dimensions. Reviews were coming in hot, with many outlets giving the game a perfect score. The game received the 4th highest Metacritic rating of the year, so while I'm not sure exactly where I'd rank it in the DK pantheon, it's safe to say, if you get this game, you will probably enjoy it. I dumped a ton of hours into the experience, getting through the story, getting all the bananas and the bonus challenges. The new mechanics feel great, the voxel technology is impressive, and DK's moveset is just so buttery smooth to control. The story was tense and fun, ending with a rare treat to longtime fans. They struck this perfect balance between old and new, making sure it wasn't a cheap hit of nostalgia. The way the story works on a metatextual level is beyond anything I would have expected from a funny monkey game. This series has always had a lot of fun and deep subtext to jump into while remaining very approachable, and Bonanza carries that legacy. When Nintendo had another Direct in September, they did a same-day drop for the Emerald Rush DLC. Up until now, the game had a nearly spotless reputation, but that price It had a funky smell on it. I absolutely love the Emerald Rush mode and would recommend it to anybody looking for a fun challenge, but tying DK Isle to another $20 purchase when it probably should have been in the game to begin with was ill-advised considering the visceral reaction to some of the pricing decisions of the Nintendo Switch 2. I won't relitigate it too much here as I made a whole video on the situation, but it's been nice to go back in the game once a month to collect some nostalgic goodies. For Thanksgiving, we saw the return of Lanky and Chunky Kong in statue form. This might seem insignificant at first glance, but Nintendo has not said a peep about these characters in a while. We also got to see some updates to their design, and they're looking good. Nintendo kicked off Donkey Kong December with a whole new theme for the Nintendo Today app. If you haven't played around with it yet, you might not see what all the excitement is about, but these themes include a bunch of stellar animations for some of Nintendo's most treasured franchises. These animations show us where Nintendo's head is at for the future of the franchise. The Crocs are back and the Kongs look as good as ever. The other thing to note here is that the franchises that got a theme here are Nintendo's top dogs. Donkey Kong getting one is a signal that they're laser focused on putting DK back on top with the big boys. And Pikmin. At the end of the year, we got a banana bunch of Game of the Year nods. Bonanza didn't pick up a whole lot of actual awards, but it was in good company. Only time will tell, but this might be one of the most fascinating franchise revivals I've ever seen. Almost every month of the year, we've had some major development for the Donkey Kong brand. I'm looking back on videos we made this year, and it's absolutely incredible to see how many of them are current events. I started this channel to make videos about the history of the DK rap or obscure franchise trivia, but we've been tied up just keeping up with all these new developments. Even as I write this, we're only a month away from a new game featuring DK and Diddy in their new looks. I imagine the pace of new things will slow this year and I'll be able to make some of those videos, but I just had to take a moment to behold what an absolutely wild year it has been. Now that we've done that, you might be curious what's on the horizon for the leader of the bunch. Join me next time as we read the tea leaves and forecast the next 3 years of the franchise.